everyone, and welcome to the Propcast. My name is Louisa Dickens, co-founder of Ella Mulry and board director of the UKPA, and I shall be your weekly host. Each week for 30 minutes, we'll be connecting the VCs, prop tech startups, and real estate professionals globally, and assist in bridging that famous communication gap we all love talking about. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to season 2 of the Propcast. I thought I would kick it off with the one and only Gregory, who is the founder of AO PropTech, Europe's largest PropTech VC firm. So welcome, Gregory, and thank you so much for kicking off season 2 of the Propcast.
Hi, Louisa. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure. I'm a big fan of what you've been doing so far, and I've been following the previous episode, so very, very happy to have been invited here.
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Everyone, before we start, let me give you a bit of background to Gregory and his latest venture. Gregory is a seasoned real estate and technology investor with over 15 years of experience across investment banking, real estate, and venture, with a deep understanding of the financial markets, real estate, and venture ecosystems. Prior to AO PropTech, Gregory founded AMD Capital, a specialist real estate investment company focusing on the most thriving segments of the industry through both private and public markets. And prior to AMD, Gregory started off his career in investment banking at Credit Suisse and then Citigroup. And he's executed over $30 billion of transactions during this time, which is pretty impressive. Gregory sits on the board and advisory board of a variety of companies in the tech and real estate space, including Placemaker, Plentific, Wildstone, Fornova, Residently, LiveLike, and AMD Capital. Gregory is a Swiss national, fluent in English, French, and Italian, and attended the University of Lausanne. Am I pronouncing it right, Gregory?
Almost, yeah, Lausanne. I should say Lausanne. You're doing a great job.
Nearly there. And London School of Economics and Harvard Business School. Gregory is passionate about sports, traveling, nutrition, food tech, cancer research, and fighting the destructive, long-lasting impact of bullying amongst children and younger generations, which we'll touch upon later in this podcast. And for those who are listening who haven't heard of AO PropTech, which I'd be very surprised if you haven't, AO PropTech invests permanent capital and combines deep real estate, data science, and engineering expertise together with a strategic sandbox of over 35 billion of real estate assets from its investors. As a result of their permanent capital approach, AO is stage agnostic, investing from Series A to later stage breakout growth stages. They enable founders to create and scale disruptive tech-enabled products and platforms disrupting the real estate industry. Now, their mission is to transform real estate into a more digital, efficient, and accessible asset class by applying innovative technologies and business models. This mission is underpinned by a vision to improve quality of life, accelerate sustainable living, and enable the decarbonization of the largest asset class in the world. And for those who wish to connect with Gregory or AO PropTech after this show, Gregory will be telling you, and it will also be in the show notes. So, right, Gregory, I guess let's kickstart with the interview.
Well, you've said it all. I don't need to say anything anymore.
Exactly, and that's the end of the show. Okay, right. Where should we start? Maybe with Gregory. Tell us a little bit more about, how did you launch this fund? How did you begin? And, tell us a little bit more about where did the vision and mission come from?
Sure. Listen, it's been a few years in the making. As you mentioned, after I left investment banking, I started AMD Capital, and we were, investing in, interesting situations in real estate. And I started realizing that, a lot of things were brewing insofar as technology is concerned with real estate. A lot of companies were coming to me and say, hey, we're doing this cool product, but we need assets. Can you offer us some of your assets to scale? And then I said, you know what, this is very interesting because I'm not a tech guy initially. That's not where I come from, but I can see that I have an opportunity to put a foot in the door there. And so I discussed with a few of my mentors and partners, and I said, you know what, this is something where I'm going to allocate some time. It excites me. I can project myself over the long term, and I see we have a real opportunity to play there. So I was lucky that I could start AO as a blank canvas. So I said, okay, how does my firm look like? What do I like from VC? What do I not like from the VC world? What can I take? What can I improve? Funnily enough, we talk about VC, which is investing in innovative companies and disrupting the world, but the industry itself hasn't really evolved the last couple of decades. So, we started this, and I said, I want to be different. It's harder to be different because you don't fit in you don't tick all the boxes for investors. You're not, you're disrupting a little bit the way they think, and we raised different type of capital. So I raised permanent capital, which was very hard because it's not common. But for me, it was essential because the idea is two things. When you are backing or investing in businesses that are disrupting such a large asset class, things are going to take time, especially with real estate, which is a slow-moving industry. So I wanted to be sure that I had long-term capital, not capital that is 7, 8, 9 years, and it could be okay. But if you have different cycles along the way, you might get caught offside. And I've seen it in my career. I've seen in real estate funds be caught on the wrong end of timing. And I never wanted to be in that position. So we're fortunate that we're able to raise that money. That means we can navigate timing, we can navigate storms, and we don't have artificial timing considerations, which in turns also create a very strong alignment with founders, because founders are often put under a lot of pressure by funds who say, hey, I need to get out, I need to monetize, you're the last investment in my fund, I need to sell my position to crystallize my IRR, and it's creating all sorts of wrong dynamics. So we want to do everything to remove any conflict of interest or to remove any misalignment in everything we do. So the capital was the focal point of it. And I think I'm extremely proud of having been able to raise that kind of money, because it gives us a huge differentiating factor compared to everyone else. And the other thing was that we needed to have very strong real estate investors alongside us to back us so that we could also in turn access their assets. So what we did is we raised from fewer investors. So I wanted to have investors with larger tickets in our fund so that we knew that they would have skin in the game. They would be, again, aligned with us. So you'll find that this word alignment comes back very often with me, because it's always something that is very important. So we had people investing larger checks, so we know they'll spend the time, they'll make the effort, they'll allocate the resources so that we can access their portfolio and help them, integrate technology at scale. And the last thing is we have a full data science team, and then we have a very strong expertise in data science and digital change management, which comes from my partner Otman, who's the chief data officer as well. And we really try to bring all sorts of expertise in-house. We have mathematicians, engineers, real estate people, finance guys, data scientists. For us, we think PropTech is really at the intersection of all those things. And we're able to gather all that expertise under one roof, which I think is quite essential. So here was born AO. We came a little bit out of nowhere.
That's for sure.
Partly my fault. I don't like things to be too much about us. I want things to be more about what we do. And for that to be the case, we stayed on stealth mode for a little over a year. So you'll see that we announced the round early this year. We announced, the funding of AO earlier this year, but we had closed, at the beginning of 2019, we already done 10 deals by the time we announced. And for us, we just thought, you know what, we do our thing, we build our thesis, we build our story, we build our reputation. We don't need to be out there and talk about us and make all those sorts of PR. We want our work and our portfolio companies to be our PR, not ourselves to be our PR. But eventually you have to, come out of your shell, and we have so many things to say, and we feel so strongly, we're so passionate about what we do, and we think a lot of the success of PropTech lies in the thought leadership and the education of the entire industry. So we're putting ourselves out there to make sure that what we do is known, and we explain how we do it. And especially in times like COVID, I think we were very happy to be able to have a forum and a platform to spread the word and help, help the overall ecosystem we are part of.
Yeah, well, I think 10 deals is pretty impressive so far. And you're obviously focusing on the European market. I think, are you in sort of covering around, is it 14 countries?
So we have a different way to determine the geography. For us, a European company, we focus on companies that are going to be operating in Europe primarily or at some point. So you'll find that, the last two deals we've closed, one of them was announced last week and the other one will be announced in the next couple of weeks, were in the US. So there are US companies, but they're coming to Europe, and we're a great partner of choice for companies that are already very successful in the US. They need a strong partner in Europe that has the capital, that has the network, that has the, we talk about this sandbox of 35 billion that we have amongst our LPs. There's really nobody else like us in Europe. So we're very excited to be able to attract those brilliant companies also out of the US. So we've done this in Israel as well, in the US and in Europe. And I think with the latest two investments that we've closed, we'll have crossed 15 transactions. So 10 was the number of deals we had when we announced ourselves, but now we've closed about 4 or 5 deals since March. And the last two were in the US.
Your team's been working very, very hard during sort of COVID nonstop. That's sort of good to hear. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of businesses coming out of obviously Israel. The US is, leading the way with various startups, followed by the UK. That I think like Barcelona, Amsterdam, they will have tons coming up. So it'll be interesting to see, I guess, where your next investments are coming from. Now, so out of the sort of, I guess, 10 deals you've done so far, or the one which was released a couple of weeks ago, do you want to talk us through one of your current investments?
Sure. I mean, it's always a tough question because we have so many amazing entrepreneurs, and I don't want anybody to feel left out. But I'll talk to you maybe about one within the UK at the end of last year, end of 2019. We led a $32 million Series B into a company called Plantific, which digitizing the whole repair maintenance aspect of residential property management. At the same time, they're creating a marketplace around those repair maintenance jobs in order to, have more competition and lower the cost. So you'll find that they're able to reduce repair maintenance costs for landlords by 15 to 20%. They're able to enhance the user experience. They give jobs to the local community. So there is there is more to it than just what they do, and we care a lot about helping the communities and doing good. I always say that you need to do good to do well, and I think that's one of the things that they're doing as well. So when we met them, they just had shifted their business model to B2B. They were focusing on B2C before, and it was quite a tough one. But since they came, we came into the company, we brought them into Germany, and we're helping roll them out into about 80,000 apartments in Germany alone, a few thousand more in the UK. So within the space of less than a year, the company is becoming continental European. We're also going to help them go into the US. So it's going to become very quickly a global company. They're having amazing momentum, and I think COVID has just accelerated the thesis that's underpinning what they do, and they are becoming an essential service and platform for the large landlords. They're very well integrated with social housing in the UK, which is something that also we care a lot about. They're helping social housing association reduce their costs, and in turn, there's more money to be invested into the community. So I think I'm very excited about this company. It's a fantastic funding team. Those guys have been very resilient. They've been through ups and downs, and they've always kept their cool. And this is what I like to see in entrepreneurs. Sometimes people ask me, what are the things that you are looking for? And I always say, I'm looking for humility. Humility is something that might sound very, generic, but for me, I always say that when you find humble people, it means they're open-minded to learn. They know they can get better. They're also able to change their plans when it doesn't go the way they want. Sometimes people who are not humble enough or don't know what they don't know, they're not as flexible as you need when you're an entrepreneur. And so those guys are exactly that. And I'm a big fan of them. So, this is one that I'm quite excited about.
Yeah. I've heard non-stop good things about their founder called Jem. I spelled Kem, but it's pronounced Jem. And we actually work with them. We're helping them to scale as well. But I think a lot of it is having that, I guess, not being too close to your product, like you said, to understand, what, we kind of need to change this to, I guess, to scale a little bit more. And it's, So I wish the best for Plantific.
But they're doing really well on the pronunciation today.
Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, it's only midweek. If we were doing this on Friday, it'd be something different. So you've obviously got investments through different verticals of prop tech. Are there any particular areas you're looking to focus on, whether that's lots of people pushing forward in the sustainability space, any areas for you?
Sure. Listen, there's a few. Sustainability and decarbonization is a big one. We've done a couple of deals during COVID in France. So we've done 2 investments in France, and we partner with the French government there, which is something that I found very exciting because for issues like sustainability, I think the collaboration between private and public is actually essential, and I find it quite amazing. So that's something we care a lot about. And that spreads into so many verticals. So we've closed the deal in the US in a company called Aquicore. They're basically kind of an operating system that allows a facility manager to enhance the performance of the building and reduce inefficiencies. But that opens the door to becoming a lot more sustainable and reduce your carbon footprint. And I think today it's really a must. It's a must-have for a number of reasons. Some of them are just purely investor pressure or tenants pressure, but also regulatory. In Europe, you have all those regulations coming into play. So for me, everything around the decarbonization is essential because the only way to be more efficient from a carbon standpoint is to become digital and tech-enabled. And so the moment you cross that threshold, it opens the door to many more digitization aspects of your buildings and your operations. So we'll find that it's going in itself to help accelerate the momentum, which is already very high. And it's obviously everything that's happened post-COVID, aside from all the human considerations, obviously, but COVID has been very good for what we do and very good to accelerate what was a strong momentum. But now it's really quite amazing to see what's happening.
Yeah, it's definitely great getting more traction, that's for sure. So you also, levels of investment, you say you're sort of stage agnostic. Is there a particular sort of sweet spot? You've obviously covered seed, Series A, Series B.
So we try to be as opportunistic as possible. And I would say the only reason why we're limited in terms of not going too early simply because we have quite a lot of capital to deploy and we want to be very close and available and supportive of our portfolio companies. And so therefore, I just can't have us do 100 deals. We have to come at a point where we can help accelerate the growth of this company through all the things that I've mentioned, through our data science expertise, through the 35-40 billion of assets that we have direct, access to in order to roll out the product. And so if you come too early, sometimes the companies are not ready yet to do that and they require a lot more time, which we do on a case by case, obviously. And that's the beauty of the way we're set up with permanent capital is we can be a lot more flexible than if you're a fund with a specific timeline and then you can't look right and you can't look left because it doesn't fit in the box. We can afford to keep some capital for those things. So we tend to go a bit earlier in everything around ESG because this is a more nascent segment. And we're happy to go even much later. We have as well a co-investment vehicle that we use for much larger tickets. So we don't really advertise about, but we're able to look much further down the line. For us, we're looking at really companies that are disrupting the industry, wherever they're coming from, however they're trying to do it. And we just need to know that we can help them. So, that's really the most important thing. We need to know that we can be valuable for them. And that's where we decide whether, the stage makes sense. And so we've done from seed to Series C, and you'll find probably in the next 6 months, we'll continue along those lines, and probably Series B is probably Series A or B is probably the best spot for us because this is the best ratio in terms of how helpful we can be. But we remain open-minded. We'll see. We're looking at a few transactions in the US which are much more advanced, but they still need to come to Europe. So there might be Series D or whatever, but they still need to come to Europe and they still need a strong partner there. So we still have a card to play and we can still be extremely relevant for them. So that what's also is very exciting about our business model.
And I guess you sort of touched upon Scientific earlier, and I would say that's a definite success story. Is there anything you've learned along the way since starting investing in this space?
Well, you learn every day, and that's what I love what I do, and that's why I'm so passionate, and that's why actually it never feels like work, and it's all pure excitement. You know, there is so much happening in the industry. It's a very nascent industry. There's a new segments being created on a daily basis. So obviously, we're learning as we go in terms of mapping out the ecosystem, understanding the trends. Obviously, with COVID, we had to do a lot of learning. We absorbing a lot of data every day, trying to understand what the trends are going to be. So that's more on the market side. In terms of our investments, as I said, it's easy to get overexcited because there's so many amazing things happening, but we really try to see past that, and really the number one lesson is doesn't matter what product you're backing, doesn't matter what segment you're backing, it always comes down to the entrepreneurs. And so a lot of my work personally, a lot of the work goes from the team into technical and all those things, but a lot of my work is trying to really assess the people we back, and try to take some clues into small things, but that can give me a good idea of who they are, what they are, and trying to know them more and more, because you're going to work a lot with those people in tough times, in good times, more importantly in tough times. And being able to understand who's across the table means you can help them better, you can support them better. And so a lot of work needs to go into the people. It's really all about the people. And that's something that we learn also every day.
And if we're looking at, say, post-COVID, are there any sort of trends that you're predicting or even seeing so far?
Listen, there's a lot of debates right now. You don't need me to fuel the debate. You go on social media, you have people predicting the end of the office and the big crash in real estate. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not going to sit there and tell you I know better. I can tell you that I usually have a more measured approach with those things. We've had a huge shock. I mean, COVID was a massive slap in the face for everyone. It's exacerbated a lot of things. It's shown the shortcomings of the real estate industry. But I think it's a great thing, because I hate status quo. And status quo was what was happening in real estate for a long time now. And so now it's the end of status quo. There's a lot of introspection that has to go into everyone's business models. The big players are a lot more humble than they were 4 or 5 months ago. So they're more open to change. They're more open to hear about new things. For me, if you take the subject of the office, as I said, I'm more measured. So I think that we run a lot of surveys. So if you talk to a single guy or girl who lives in a 50 square meter apartment, they're probably dying to go back to the office. If you speak to a young family with 3 kids, young age, they're also probably dying to go back to the office. There's a social aspect of the office that is undeniable. I'm not suggesting that we'll just go back and we'll be as before. I think we believe in 3 things that we need to focus on: is how you get to the office, and that's the whole mobility part; how you get into the office, and that's all access control; and how you manage the flow of people. So this idea of a rush hour where everyone comes in at the same time and leaves at the same time, I think probably is going to vanish over time, or at least be spread over time, because if you apply social distancing measures, it would take you 5-6 hours to get everyone in the building, and obviously that's not feasible. So I believe in different management of the people in terms of timing and location is concerned. I believe that we'll have more clusters of work. So I believe in the work closer to home as opposed to the work from home only. So having small clusters where people can have access to an infrastructure with less people, less density, probably makes sense. So we'll see how it goes, but office has been challenged over many decades. It needs to reinvent itself, and I'm sure it will. It's just going to be different, and different doesn't mean worse. I think I'm very excited about the change to come. We reinvent ourselves. We reinvent the way we work and how we interact with one another. So there's certainly going to be some great things happening. So for me, it's all positive when I think about the future.
Well, that's good to hear. And I guess, so you've obviously, like we spoke about earlier, you and your business, AO, have been sort of flying under the radar. How did you sort of find raising during, I guess, just before the pandemic sort of reached its sort of peak? Was it tough, or how did you guys find it?
You mean find what? To be under the radar?
Yeah.
Well, there's good things and bad things. I'm when you come into I'm a newcomer into the VC world, and so it's a world which is, when people can't Google anything about you and they don't know, they're always very suspicious. So at the beginning, we found it. Some people were, not necessarily too open with us because they couldn't, place us. They didn't know who we were, where we're coming from, and it's fine. I always like to be the underdog, and I like to just do my thing, and eventually things play out the right way. Aside from that, I think the biggest challenge was some interaction with companies at the very beginning. So the first connection, sometimes a bit hard because they can figure you out. But I think once you meet, I think you can show that you're worth, having a conversation. And hiring was a challenge. Hiring was a big challenge because obviously same thing. People coming from big funds or whatever, they don't want to know where they're going and what's behind. So I think that since we announce ourselves, and obviously everything we do is very transparent, and all our deals and our teams, I think everything has been a lot easier. Actually, on the other side, it's been almost too overwhelming. There's a lot of people coming on and coming in, and it's great. So, I prefer to do it this way than just talk, and then, then the pressure is the other way. So for us, we know what we want to do. We're very, very confident about the way we want to do it. We're going to do it our way. And eventually it's a long-term play. I don't need to be marketing ourselves for the first year. I need to know that people will value us for the next 20 years. And that can only be done through the work we do. So, the first 12 months of PR or not PR or marketing or articles in the press doesn't really matter. If you're there for the long term, everything else will play itself out.
Agreed. It sounds like a modest and sustainable growth plan. And I think it's so important. Like in any sort of industry, even like sort of what I do, when you sort of promise the world and under deliver, you don't want that at the beginning. But no, really interesting to hear. Now, okay, so let's start talking about something else other than prop tech and VC. Say if you weren't in VC, obviously you've been in banking, you've been in real estate. Is there any other industry which you would go into, or any sort of, I don't know, like, would you be an astronaut, or I don't know, any other industry?
When I look at the guys that flew, the NASA guys it looks amazing. But no, I never dreamt to be an astronaut. I would have loved to be, maybe an athlete or something. I think I love the idea and the concept of sports. I think it's such a great discipline. It teaches you a lot of things about life, and I wish I'd done more sports when I was a kid. I think it's a great school. For me, it's as important as just going in a classroom. I think it teaches you discipline, it teaches you teamwork, it teaches you challenging yourself, pushing yourself. So I would have loved to be good at something and pursue a passion in sports, because I think it can be super rewarding over time. But aside from that, when I was a kid, I was dreaming to be a lawyer, and going to in the courtroom to help people and fight cases. But obviously, I think it's a bit too late for me now. I went into banking, and then the rest happened naturally. But there are so many. If I was 17, 18, 19 now, and coming, figuring out what I wanted to do, I think I find it amazing today that for young people, there's so many things that are available. You're much more mobile. There's no more borders. You can just have a shot at whatever you want. I feel today that the world and our society is giving more chances early on. Probably if you look at 10, 20 years ago, you had to go through the ranks, and you had to be a certain age, and you had to have a little bit of gray hair and here and there. I feel today all those things, all those preconceptions are completely gone. So I think it must be very exciting to be a young, motivated, professional today, because you have so many things available. And if you're willing to work hard, I think I think there's a lot that can be done.
I think also if you just sort of go online, there's so many different courses which you can do. Like even like there's I think Cambridge and Oxford are doing sort of a 6-week marketing course, which is obviously available to anyone, and that's all online. Or if people want to do like even a course within law, you can do it for a year. It's amazing, like literally the touch of a fingertip. You can get on one. But also, I
It's
guess,
really amazing. Nice. And by the way, I would say, we talk about disruption. I think education is going to be one of industry that's going to be the most disrupted by COVID, and I think a lot of the universities and the education companies are going to have to reinvent a little bit how they operate, and I think it's a long overdue.
And yeah, I guess how much of it will actually happen on campus. I sort of think when people are looking at investing, student housing is still doing well. I'm not saying it's not, but I think 10, 20 years ago, it was just a, guaranteed investment back. I mean, it was ROI was great. I'm not sure about what's going to happen to the future of that, how many people will be doing it sort of remotely. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on that side. But I guess talking about, different sort of passions for whether it be sort of sport for you, we touched upon it earlier. One big passion of yours is, I guess, fighting against, the impact of bullying amongst young children. Is there anything you can sort of expand on that, or I guess which our listeners should be sort of reading or learning a little bit more about?
Sure. I mean, listen, I think bullying is something that's one of the worst thing that one of the most dramatic things we see amongst the younger generation. And it's not something new. It's been there forever. It's just taking different forms. I, as a kid, was victim of that for many, many, many years. And it's really had a, long lasting impact on me. And I think today it's just exacerbated by social media and all those new platforms whereby, people are meaner and meaner and meaner. And I think we underestimate as a society really the impact that it can have on those young kids at the time of the bullying, but then for many years or decades to come. And I think any initiative, it's not something that's easy to fix. It's not something that you can throw money at and, find a cure. It's a little bit more complicated than that. And I think it starts early from how you educate your kids, how you raise them, and how education works and how the dynamic at school is working. But that's something I suffered tremendously from. And I obviously, anything I could do to contribute to changing that over time, I'll be extremely happy, because I wish when I was a kid and suffering that someone told me, hey, it's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. Yeah. And sometimes it's as easy as this, but I've been doing a lot of research the last few years. I'm trying to find the best platform to get behind and help push some strong initiatives, or when I have a little bit more time, maybe started something myself. But that's a huge topic. That's a huge topic, and we don't talk about it enough. And that's because precisely we don't talk about it, that it's more and more harmful. So I encourage anybody who's feeling or that who's listening to me and it resonates what I'm saying, that whenever you're not feeling good or you're having issues or someone's bullying you, you should talk about it, because that's part of the solution already. So that's a very important topic.
Yeah, I think there's obviously a lot of talk about sort of mental health, especially even so more since the lockdown, and a lot of people are on their own. So whether or not it's people having an impact on it or just being on your own, there's so many different apps which you can use to, I guess, help your sort of, make your mental health stronger, health and well-being. Like think whether it's sort of from bullying or just general loneliness, it's like so many different texts involved in it as well, or just meditation. I've started reading a book about happiness, which is written by a monk who swore to silence in a monastery in Scotland for 5 years. And it's all about sort of practicing, I guess, being at peace with yourself and everything. But there's so many things which I guess need to be addressed, and what people need to sort of talk about as well. And I think a lot of people are realizing the importance of so many different topics that happen in every single everyday life, since we've all been in lockdown. We've all had that time to sort of take a step back and realize what's important, what's going on in the world, and to actually really sort of appreciate it, and I guess make changes. But yeah, look, any sort of initiative which you start sort of looking into or backing, love to hear about it, and obviously, I guess, get it out there more.
By the way, you mentioned the word happiness. It's an interesting topic, because actually nobody really knows what happiness means for them. And it's part of the issues. People spend their life chasing this concept of happiness, but they actually never know what makes them happy. And I think spending a bit of time on your own, doing a bit of introspection, and I think COVID has helped towards that. As you said very correctly, helps reprioritize and just lay the ground of what are the important things and what makes you happy, whatever it is. But you need to figure it out.
Yeah, I think everyone thinks happiness comes from tangible, sort of external things, but it is. But what I've learned from this book, I mean, talk about like self-improvement, it all comes internally, but it's having that time to sort of really invest in yourself, which is, I think, so important. But Gregory, I'm conscious of time, and I guess we're coming to the end of the show. I guess before we go, is there anything you'd like to share with our audience listeners, best way to connect with you and AO PropTech?
Listen, in general, I would say for those who are listening, who are entrepreneurs, who are, going through the motions and wanting to raise money and, have had difficult times or not, I always encourage them to do their homework about who they engage with, whether they're investors or potential clients, because obviously in the times like this, you need to understand who the investors were actually investing. A lot of people will just take calls for the sake of it, because everyone likes to hear about a cool company or a cool project. But I think it can be very tiring to chase the wrong investors, or the ones that are not investing for whatever the reason is. So I always encourage to do a bit more homework prior to approaching too many people, because I think sometimes it can be quite draining to just spend time, and then you get a no or a yes, but maybe later. So homework is key. Same thing for your customers. I think there's going to be a lot of movement within companies. People are going to be furloughed. The person you were speaking to 3 months ago might not be there anymore, or might have been promoted or demoted. So really understanding who your customers are within those big organizations and tracking them, I think will go a long way, because you can send an email, it gets unanswered, and you think the person is just too busy or not wanting to engage with you, but maybe they've just been furloughed. You don't know. Maybe they've been moved departments. So I think really trying to track the people that you need to get access to will also go a long way in saving you a lot of time and energy.
Mm. And I guess for everyone who wants to connect with you, PropTech, I know you've got a great team sort of backing you. Do you want to sort of, I guess, the listeners know how to get in touch?
Yeah, sure. So on our website, aoproptech.com, you have most of our emails, and you can always reach out on Twitter as well, or on LinkedIn. Always very responsive, or we try to. When we're not, it's not that we're ignoring, it's just that, sometimes things get a bit lost in translation, but we make it a point to get back to anybody who wants to talk to us, whatever the topic is. So by all means, send us an email, call us, and we'll be more than happy to chat and to engage and to meet up.
Awesome. Well, Gregory, it was a pleasure having you on the Propcast, and I look forward to connecting with you after the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Propcast, and a big thanks to our special guests. Make sure you visit our website, www.lmre.co.uk, where you can subscribe to our show, or you'll find us on iTunes and Spotify, where all good content is found. Whilst you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate if you could rate and review us on iTunes, or if you simply just spread the word. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday, and I'll catch you later.
You're listening to a Podcast Company podcast. This was made by Podcast Syndicator, where we help you go from start to grow to making money with your podcast. Let us help you share your message and your voice with the world. Reach out now, Jason at podcastsyndicator.com or Brett at podcastsyndicator.com to find out more. Thank you for listening, and do come back to hear nothing but the best podcasts.